I'm Helen from the Writing Development Centre, and I'm here to answer some more of your academic skills questions. And this time, the question is about introductions. What do you write in an introduction? I've always found them a little bit tricky because you just want to jump into the argument and start writing. It's quite hard to figure out what that first sentence should be. The advice usually is say what you're going to say, and then you say it in the main body of the essay, and then you say that you've said it in the conclusion. And that's always felt a bit repetitive to me. It's not very rewarding to write. So I'd like to think about a slightly different approach to writing introductions, which thinks about the perspective of your reader. So every piece of writing, of course, there are two people involved. There's the person writing it and the person reading it. The person reading it is obviously your lecturer, your marker. So, what are the three questions that your marker, your lecturer, has in mind when they first pick up your essay? The first thing is, what are you doing? What are you doing? Of course, they know what they've asked you to do, and it might feel a bit strange to kind of repeat that back to them. A lot of people try and echo the words of the question or the instruction in the first line or so of the introduction. But again, that feels a little bit repetitive. So a better perspective might be to think, okay, the lecturer knows what they've set me, but they don't know how I've understood that question. So you could reflect back your understanding of what you've been asked to do in your own words, just to let them know that you've understood what the task is. There might also be some wiggle room there for different ways that you could have understood that task. So what's your take on it? They might also have given you some options in the assignment. You could choose, you could do it on this, that, or the other. And the lecturer doesn't know which of those you've chosen. So again, that's part of your answer to the question, what are you doing? You're also giving the reader a sense that you know what the main concepts are, the main facts, the main definitions of any terms that you're using. So again, what are you doing? You're just kind of reflecting back that you've understood some of the main concepts that you'll be using later on in your essay. The second question that comes to mind for the reader is, why are you doing this? Now, the obvious answer is because you were told to by the lecturer. But a more interesting way to look at that is to show that you've really understood why they've set that question. None of the questions that you're set at university will be simple or straightforward. They're all going to be problematic, complicated for some reason. So if you're answering the question, why are you doing this? Why is this worth doing? You're reflecting that you've understood the complexity of it. And you're almost flattering the person who set that question, saying, good question. I'm glad you asked that. So you're kind of digging into, why is this a problem? Why is there not a straightforward answer to this? And why is it significant? Why is this worth looking at and worth your time answering it in some depth? The third question that will be on the reader's mind is, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? Because, of course, every response is going to be different. Every single student who writes an answer to that assignment or essay or report is going to be different. So how are you going to approach it? You might take that in terms of what your structure is going to be. So how am I going to answer this? I will answer this in three parts. The first part will be, the second part will be, and so on. So you're signposting. You might also tell the reader a little bit about the choices and decisions that you've made. Obviously, you could write about so many things in any one assignment. The possibilities are endless, but you've got, 1,500 words, 2,000 words? So you're going to have to make some choices to limit that down. So you could talk the reader through the limits that you've set on your own attempt to answer that question. You might also want to tell them about any examples that you've chosen to include, any theories or approaches or models that you tried to employ to solve the problem that they've set you, any definitions that you're going to be using from now on. So how are you going to do this is a very useful way to tell the reader a little bit about what to expect in the rest of the essay and your thinking in terms of how you've decided to approach it. So it doesn't have to be in that order, but if in the introduction you're addressing those three questions, then you've probably got your essay off to a good start.